An extraordinary audit, the money questions that prompted San Diego school leaders to investigate the San Ysidro School District. SeaWorld execs knew early on blackfish was a problem. The concern about the company's bottom line now being revealed.
The beauty of the piece is that it can change minds and change hearts.
San Diego Opera's As One tackles a story of transitioning with two singers playing the single role of Hannah. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. As new cases of sexual harassment and misconduct come to light, we're now seeing it as an issue at the state capitol. Information obtained from a records request by the Associated Press shows more than a dozen claims were investigated over the past 5 years. 6 of those cases were in the state Senate, 8 in the Assembly. The information does not state if any cases resulted in disciplinary action. Nationally, today has brought new claims touching the worlds of media, entertainment, and politics. That includes Roy Moore, the Senate candidate in Alabama, who is now hearing calls to drop out of the race. Moore insists the allegations against him are false. His campaign has been shaken by a Washington Post report on a woman who says she was just 14 when Moore made sexual advances towards her decades ago. President Trump says Moore should step aside if the allegations are true. Even so, at this point, it's too late to remove Moore's name from next month's ballot. From comedian Louis C.K. an admission, he says allegations from 5 women that he exposed himself to them are true. Netflix is pulling a stand-up special and other projects are dropped, as Louis C.K. says he will step away from the spotlight. And there are more revelations today alone. Actress Ellen Page says she was harassed and outed as a lesbian by film director Brett Ratner in 2006. Actor Anthony Edwards claims he was molested by writer-producer Gary Goddard as a child. A freelance writer is accusing Rolling Stone publisher Jan Winter of sexual harassment. And Olympic gymnast Aly Raisman says she was one of the athletes abused by a team doctor. Our coverage on the sexual harassment fallout continues on air at KPBS Radio and online at kpbs.org. More trouble with San Ysidro School District. Our media partner iNews Source has confirmed the San Diego County Superintendent of Schools has asked the state to investigate the district and payments made to 2 former top administrators. iNews Source reporter Leonardo Castaneda has the details.
The San Diego County Superintendent of School, Paul Gothold, is calling for the state to do what's known as an extraordinary audit of the San Ysidro School District. These kinds of investigations are done where fraud or misuse of public funds is suspected. The County Office of Education announced late Thursday night that Gothold is concerned about payments made to San Ysidro's former superintendent, Julio Fonseca, and his successor, Jose Arturo Sanchez Macias. This is the latest chapter in a series of troubles for the district that began on September 1st with Fonseca's resignation. The school board gave him a $376,000 severance package. His deputy, Sanchez Macias, took over as the interim superintendent, but he resigned a week ago. A school board member has accused both men of cashing out more vacation days than they're allowed in their contracts. He also says the men misled the board when it okayed their life insurance benefits. The news of the state investigation came the same night the San Ysidro board formally hired Los Angeles area educator Mary Willis as an interim superintendent. Willis has experience with troubled districts and has worked with the state agency involved. Here's what she had to say after the meeting.
You know what? You just answer the questions the best you can, provide the documents that are there, and let the outside agency take a look at it and say what was right, what was wrong, and as a result, put safeguards in place so that it doesn't occur in the future, if anything at all does occur or has occurred.
These kinds of state audits are rare. 2 were done last year, and it appears this is the first one ever done at a San Diego County school district. For KPBS, I'm iNews reporter Leonardo Castaneda. iNews Source is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS.
A slim majority of Californians support the new sanctuary state law that will take effect in January. USC and the LA Times polled 1,500 eligible voters. 53% say they approve the law. The law limits who state and local law enforcement can hold at the request of federal agencies. 29% oppose the law. Nearly two-thirds, 63%, said the state should mostly not comply with the Trump administration's immigration policies. San Diego Congresswoman Susan Davis is rallying resistance to Republican tax cut plans circulating in the House and Senate. The elimination of the state and local tax deductions is drawing a lot of fire. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson has details.
It's cuts and it's relief and it's also reform.
President Donald Trump and Republican lawmakers hope to come to terms on a tax reform plan before the end of the year. The GOP wants to cut corporate taxes, reduce the number of tax brackets, and eliminate a host of deductions.
The Republican tax bill is exactly the type of tax reform that I don't believe that San Diego needs.
San Diego Congresswoman Susan Davis says she's not sure the reform effort has complete Republican support.
If they're going to move forward and still have the inability to deduct state and local taxes, those high tax states in the Senate are balking at that possibility.
Both House and Senate plans eliminate the state and local tax deduction, and that hits hard in high-tax states like California. San Diego School Board member Richard Barrera says local voters who approve new school taxes will now also pay higher federal taxes.
It's basically a signal to local and to state taxpayers that when you're willing to make sacrifice to provide for strong public schools here in California, the federal government is going to come and punish you for that sacrifice.
The Republican plans also reduce the mortgage interest deduction, and realtor Ann Throckmorton says that pinches an already tight real estate market.
The American dream includes home ownership, and San Diego, it's not news to anyone that housing affordability is a crisis here. We cannot afford to have a tax program that's taking money out of so many different pockets.
Democrats say they won't go along with the GOP tax reform plan because it gives huge tax cuts to corporations and the wealthy. Angela DeJoseph of Lemon Grove says a different approach is needed.
This is a non-starter. They need to scrap it, start over, get a new bill, bipartisan support.
So far, Republican Darrell Issa is the only California Republican to say publicly that he'll vote against the plan. He narrowly won re-election last year, and he's come out strongly against eliminating the state and local tax deduction. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
A plan to speed up the creation of a citywide network of bike lanes in San Diego was put on hold this week. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen has more.
We're standing here at the intersection of 54th and University and City Heights. This is a really high usage intersection for people walking. As you can see here, people biking, transit, and driving.
Randy Van Vleck is a member of San Diego's Bicycle Advisory Committee. This intersection here is the type of intersection he says has to change.
And unfortunately, it was designed at a time where we weren't really planning for all modes. We were planning to move cars at the fastest speed possible, often at the expense of other people's safety.
Van Vleck and other bike committee members have been working on a set of policies to focus more attention on the city's need for safer bike lanes. But a city council vote on those policies was put off this week because of last-minute disagreements over the plan's watered-down language.
We're looking forward to working with staff to include a bit more specific metrics in the strategic implementation plan, specifically around our actions in regards to counting how many people are biking.
The city's efforts to count bicyclists have largely fallen short, and officials still don't know how they'll measure the success of their efforts to combat climate change by getting people out of cars. The bike network implementation plan will go back to the city council, but it's not clear when. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
SeaWorld executives were concerned about the fallout from the documentary Blackfish far sooner than they publicly let on. That's according to a report from the San Diego Union Tribune about emails unsealed in an ongoing lawsuit. The emails from 2013 expressed how the film about orcas in captivity was impacting revenue. Shareholders sued, claiming they were misled about the reasons for the slowdown in business. SeaWorld is not commenting on the case. Earlier this week, a new earnings report showed a sharp decline in attendance at SeaWorld parks in San Diego and elsewhere. Victims of the wildfires in Northern California have another month to request help from the federal government. FEMA is reminding those impacted in Napa and Sonoma counties the deadline to apply is December 11th. The agency says those who apply may be able to get help even if they have their own insurance. Governor Jerry Brown recently asked for more than $7 billion in federal disaster aid. This is video from Santa Rosa where heavy equipment is clearing out destroyed neighborhoods. It's more than just a matter of cleanup. The EPA is on site, making sure there are no hazardous materials left in the soil.
The police came and yelled at us to get out. It's warning you right now, you got to get out. So we basically got our shoes on and a sweatshirt and left, with literally the clothes that we were sleeping in, and that was it.
The wildfires in Napa and Sonoma counties killed 43 people and destroyed nearly 9,000 buildings. On this Veterans Day weekend, a show of support for homeless veterans at the state capitol. The nonprofit Loaves and Fishes held a special ceremony to award veterans service pins as a token of appreciation. A 2012 estimate by the VA put the number of homeless veterans at 62,000 nationwide, with a quarter of those living in California. The 31st annual San Diego Veterans Day Parade kicks off tomorrow downtown. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman went to the waterfront for a preview.
Veterans Week San Diego is getting ready for a big crowd. They're expecting nearly 80,000 people for Saturday's parade.
This is a big responsibility to have charge of the celebration of Veterans Day for a county with 250,000 veterans residing here. So we take that seriously. Our purpose is to make it a good celebration that everybody can enjoy.
In addition to veterans, the parade will feature active duty personnel from the U.S. Marine Corps, the Navy, and Coast Guard.
That has become now the largest public parading of active duty men and women in uniform, in formation, anywhere in the country. There will be over 1,000, probably close to 1,600.
The parade is set to start right here at 11 a.m. on North Harbor Drive, then continue on for about a mile down the road toward the USS Midway. There really isn't a bad spot to watch the parade. Here behind me, right in front of the waterfront park, will be these big grandstands, but if you want a special spot, is right here on these lawns, just past the Broadway Pier.
At that point, the people marching in the parade, they become attentive to the sidelines because they're looking for that family or friend who said, "I'll meet you at the end." And so they're looking over at you, so that's a fun place to be.
Parade organizers say parts of North Harbor Drive will close starting at 7:30 Saturday morning, then reopen to traffic around 2 p.m. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Qualcomm has been targeted for takeover. We look at what this means for San Diego. We look deeper into why San Ysidro, one of the county's poorest school districts, paid their superintendent so much, and at the risks when the homeless chased out of downtown head for the San Diego River. Join us for the roundtable tonight at 8:30.
You don't often hear of an opera as ripped from the headlines, but San Diego Opera's production of As One has a distinctly contemporary feel. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando says the latest Detour series production tackles a transgender story through the character of Hannah, who's portrayed by two singers, a baritone and a mezzo-soprano.
Kimberly Reed, along with co-librettist Mark Campbell and composer Laura Kaminsky, is interested in invigorating the form of opera in America today.
A lot of times people think of opera as being this form that's 400 years old and in Italian, and you can't really relate to it. We want to tell these really approachable stories that happen to real people today.
Lately, there's been a trend in the opera world to deal with highly contemporary and topical issues. It's one of the ways that the industry needs to evolve.
Kelly Markgraf stars in As One, an opera that perfectly exemplifies this.
The composer, Laura Kaminsky, had read in the New York Times an article about a New Jersey couple, one of whom was transitioning gender, and it got her thinking about what is this human struggle of transitioning genders, and how does it affect not only the world around the person transitioning, but what is the struggle of the inner character?
Reed created the films that run on screens during the opera, but she was also tapped to co-write the libretto and draw on her own experiences as a trans person.
When I think of it, I think of these two singers as portraying kind of two poles of gender in that sort of big swirl of gender that happens, I think, within all of us, but especially within trans people. Kind of have somebody depicting the male side and somebody depicting a female side, sort of like a yin-yang. And then they get all swirled up together and end up in this one expression of person.
As One focuses on Hannah, who's played by mezzo-soprano Blythe Gassert and baritone Markgraf.
It was a bit of a mind-bending experience because typically, you're in a situation where you have certain goals and desires of the character and you bounce off of the other characters. But with this, being able to be on stage and inhabit the same psyche was a bit surprising and challenging. For instance, if I'm on one side of the stage and she's on the other, if I'm silent and she's singing, I need to be living through everything that she's saying. Everything that comes out of her mouth is actually happening inside of me at the same time.
Gassert co-inhabits the character of Hannah with Markgraf.
They thought it would be an interesting vehicle to be able to have both male and female representing sort of the two sides, but also being able to inhabit both sides. So we don't actually participate just as male and female. We take on attributes of both for both of us. In this piece, you get an opportunity to just see another person that's going through a situation where they don't feel like they're their best self and that they are, that they're not complete.
That's something audiences can identify with, says Markgraf.
The beauty of the piece is that it can change minds and change hearts. People who are uncomfortable with the topic coming in end up leaving knowing that they empathized with the struggles of that character, so then therefore they can't actually be that different than that character.
Gassert says the intimacy of a chamber opera is exciting.
I like being able to see people's reactions and feel people's energy in a closer proximity. I feel like it helps energize our performance. I think that it gives the audience a much closer look at how we're doing what we're doing. And there's a certain thrill that comes from being that up close to someone making that much sound, I think, also. But they can see that we're really living in it and that we're really telling a story in a different way, in a more intimate way.
Adding to that intimacy is a talkback scheduled each night following the opera, says Reed.
I really love talkbacks because it's really an opportunity for the creators of the opera to speak directly with audiences and to really just spark discussions. I think that art, if it's working, hopefully is going to spark a lot of discussions.
Most of all, she wants to encourage a sense of empathy for somebody that people might feel like they didn't fully understand before. It's like transforming the audience from individuals when they enter to feeling as one with the character of Hannah when they leave. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
San Diego Opera's As One is part of its Detour series and runs tonight through Sunday at the Joan Kroc Theater in Rolando. It will be telecast live on KPBS TV Saturday night at 7. Well, the weather won't be an issue for tomorrow's Veterans Day Parade or any other event. Brittany Boyer has tonight's forecast.
Hopefully you had a great Friday. We have a nice weekend in store for us. And you know what? The storm track remains to our north. So over Northern California, the Pacific Northwest, that is where they've been seeing with a series of different storm systems. You can see it here on the satellite and radar. Last several hours, most of that staying from the Bay Area on north. So we're in still pretty good shape, although I'm sure we could use some rainfall in some locations. 57 degrees here overnight low. We will have some clouds building in for tonight and possibly some fog and low-level clouds as you get west of the mountains for tonight. Looking at low temperatures, a low of 43 at Mount Laguna, Ramona, 42 degrees tonight, low 40s as we look at the low forecast tonight in Alpine. Now for our Saturday here, high pressure's nearby, so that's going to keep things on the quiet side. Again, the storm track remaining to our north, so a pleasant weekend is in store for us. Here's a look at your high temperatures across San Diego County. Now the parade, the Veterans Day Parade, is going on tomorrow. Steps off at 11 a.m. If you plan on heading out there, no weather-related issues you have to worry about. We get to Borrego Springs tomorrow afternoon. Temperatures are looking to be in the low 80s. So again, a nice and pleasant weekend is in store for us here. We'll start off with the low clouds, especially out toward the coast with that marine layer. But then the sun is out by the afternoon. Temperatures in the low 70s, and it looks to stay that way in the low 70s right into early next week. Even by Wednesday, we'll call it mostly sunny with a temperature of 72 degrees. Inland temperatures next several days, upper 70s to low 80s, so lots of sunshine. Again, some morning low clouds are possible. Otherwise, pretty quiet weather pattern here. All right, into the mountains. Maybe you're getting away this weekend. Saturday and Sunday temperatures are going to be in the 60s during the day. Nighttime hours, lows will be in the 40s as we take you right through the middle of next week, even Wednesday. Seasonal temperatures here with highs in the low 60s. And our last stop is going to be the desert. Also looking pretty pleasant this weekend. Temperatures during the day in the 80s, at night will fall into the 50s, and we're expecting lots of sunshine as we kick off the new work and school week Monday and Tuesday with high temperatures in the mid 80s. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Brittany Boyer.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, an in-depth look at women breaking their silence, and our roundtable with Mark Shields and David Brooks coming up at 7 right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Starting Monday, a technological step forward for the U.S. Supreme Court. New legal filings will be posted online. It's a move the rest of the federal court system made years ago. Transparency advocates support the change. Access to the legal filings are free to the public. Many local theaters are previewing our opening new shows this weekend. Here with more is KPBS Arts Calendar Editor Nina Guerin.
This is going to be a great weekend for theater. So let's get it started with a show we all know and love, Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas. The show celebrates its 20th anniversary this year. Stepping into the part of the mean old Grinch who hates Christmas is newcomer Edward Watts. He's new to San Diego, but he's no stranger to elaborate costumes. He played the Beast in Beauty and the Beast on Broadway. This weekend is also the Globe's tree lighting ceremony, a free event that features songs and music performed by the Grinch cast. New Village Arts in Carlsbad also has a family-friendly show opening, The Secret Garden. This musical is based on the 1911 book by Frances Hodgson Burnett. We'll have the grandest garden ever seen. It's not a show that's produced often, but it is packed with beautiful songs and a heartfelt story about finding your place in the world. She is awake, she'll grow. This show won a Tony in 1991 for Best Book of a Musical. The local production is directed by Rosina Reynolds and stars Sarah Mahaffey as the young orphan Mary Lennox. Moxie Theater stages another story of a young girl in peril, The Diary of Anne Frank. This is a new adaptation of the stage play, one that concentrates on the claustrophobia, the hope, and the fear of a family forced to hide from the Nazis in a small attic. Caitlin Katz, a high school student from Canyon Crest Academy, plays young Anne Frank. Finally, Diversionary Theater starts previews on The Moors, a dark and comedic look at life in the 19th century. This play is set in a gloomy mansion where two spinster sisters live with their brother and a maid. But then a governess arrives and forces them to look at the lies and etiquette holding their home together. It's like stepping into the world of the Bronte sisters, only nothing really turns out the way you expect. For KPBS Arts, I'm Nina Guerin.
Stay up to date on the San Diego arts scene with the KPBS Arts Calendar and our arts newsletter. Sign up at kpbs.org/newsletter. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. And we leave you with another look at the new opera production, As One. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.
Unlike every other boy, I sometimes wake extra early while everyone's asleep. I come around with my jacket on and the blouse underneath. A blouse I stole from the neighbor's clothesline. It isn't much, but fits my 12-year-old frame. Inside the darts of the blood.